Have you ever felt like you're living a life that doesn't really belong to you? As if, somehow, you're just following a script, one that was written by someone else? Your parents, your teachers, your friends, society as a whole. And deep down, something inside of you is whispering no, screaming that something's not right. You wake up, you get dressed, you go to work or school, you smile, you do everything that's expected of you, you play the role. But when you're finally alone, when everything goes quiet, that uncomfortable question starts to rise. Who am I really? Carl Jung believed this feeling, this inner disconnection, isn't random. It's not some fluke of the modern world. It's a symptom of a much deeper issue that most people never dare to face. The truth is, most people go through life never really knowing who they are. They live inside identities that were built for them. They play roles that were handed down. They chase goals they never chose. And tragically, they start to believe that this is all there is. They die having never truly met their own soul. Now let me ask you, is that happening to you? What you call yourself, your personality, your dreams, your desires, how much of that is actually you, and how much of it was shaped, planted, or imposed on you from the outside? Since childhood, you've been taught to behave a certain way to be accepted, to act nice, to sit still, to not be too loud, to suppress your anger, to please everyone around you. And in doing that, you started crafting a version of yourself that wasn't entirely real. A version that kept you safe. A version that made others happy. Jung called this version of ourselves the persona, kind of social mask we wear to interact with the world. And we all have one. You probably act differently at work than you do with your clothes. Friends, you probably show a filtered version of yourself on social media. That's your persona at work. And look, it's not all bad. Without the persona, we wouldn't be able to function in society. We need it to survive socially. But here's where it becomes dangerous, when the mask becomes all there is. When you identify so strongly with your persona that you forget who you are without it. Ask yourself, how many times have you said something you didn't mean just to be accepted? How many times have you hidden your real feelings out of fear of being judged? How many times have you smiled when all you wanted to do was scream? This happens when the persona stops being a helpful tool and starts becoming your prison. You're no longer living as a full human being. You're performing. You're managing impressions. You're surviving. But you're not living. And here's the truth. The persona might help you feel accepted, but it will never make you feel fulfilled. It might win you approval, but it will never give you peace. Eventually, something starts to feel off, even when everything looks good from the outside. You feel that something essential is missing. That's the cost of abandoning your true self. Because what you really need isn't out there. It's not in a better job. It's not in a more perfect partner. It's not in more likes, more money, more praise. What you need is inside you, buried under years of roles, rules, and routines. The big question is, are you willing to go in and find it? Because that's not an easy path. Discovering your true self means facing the things you've pushed down and tried to forget. It means coming to terms with who you've become and who you've left behind. It means breaking the illusion. In this video, we're going to explore that exact path, what Jung called the journey of individuation. It's the process of becoming whole, of integrating all the pieces of yourself, especially the ones you've been running from. It's the only way to live with real depth, clarity, and truth. So, let's keep going. From a very early age, you were taught how to fit in. Be nice. Don't speak up. Don't cry. Don't show weakness. Make people happy. Be strong. Be good. And little by little, you adjusted. You adapted. You filtered yourself. You started crafting a version of yourself that others would accept. This became your persona. It's not fake. It's just partial. It's the surface-level self you use to move through the world. But the danger is when you forget that there's more to you than just that surface. Think about how often we shape-shift to fit our surroundings. You're one version of yourself at work, another version at home, a different one around your parents, and yet another one with strangers online. That's the persona in action, and it serves a purpose. But when you fully become the mask, when you can no longer distinguish between who you are And who you ray pretending to be, then you ray in trouble. That's when the soul starts to ache, because the persona is not meant to carry the full weight of your existence. It can help you function, but it can't help you feel. It can help you be liked, but not known. And it certainly can't lead you to a meaningful life. So what happens when we rely on the persona for too long? We start to feel like strangers to ourselves. We lose track of our instincts. We forget what we actually want. And the more we cling to that mask, the further we drift from our essence. If the persona is the face you show the world, then the shadow is everything you've hidden from it. And this is where the real journey begins. Because behind the mask deep in the unconscious is the part of you that holds all your unspoken truths, your repressed emotions, your buried desires, the anger you weren't allowed to express, the curiosity that was called annoying, the sadness you were told to get over. This is the shadow, and it's not evil, it's just ignored. And unless you face it, unless you bring it into the light, it will control you from the dark. In the next part, we'll go deeper into what the shadow really is, how it shows up in your life, and how Jung believed that integrating it is essential to becoming your true self. If what we've talked about so far resonates with you, hit subscribe and stay with me, because the next chapter is where the real transformation begins. If the persona is the mask you wear to be accepted, then the shadow is everything you've hidden to avoid being rejected. And here's the uncomfortable truth. What we hide doesn't disappear. It sinks, it grows stronger. It starts shaping your life from the background silently, invisibly. Carl Jung described the shadow as the hidden side of your personality. It's made up of all the traits, feelings, impulses, and memories you've pushed away over the years because you were told they weren't acceptable. Not by you. Not by others. Not by the culture you grew up in. Think about it. Maybe when you were a child, you showed too much curiosity and someone said, "Stop asking so many questions." So you started holding your thoughts in. Or maybe you got angry and were told, "Don't be difficult." So you began swallowing your frustration. Or you were sensitive and someone said, "Toughen up." So you learned to hide your emotions. That energy didn't vanish. It just got buried. It went underground into the shadow. And the thing is, the shadow is not just the bad parts of you. It also contains your lost gifts, your creativity, your passion, your intuition, even your capacity for deep love and vulnerability. All of it, both light and dark, gets repressed when we're too focused on fitting in. But here's where it gets dangerous. When you don't face your shadow consciously, it takes control unconsciously. Ever lashed out in anger, then felt ashamed and confused afterward? That's your shadow acting out. Ever felt envy and immediately tried to deny it even to yourself? That's the shadow, too. Ever overreacted to a small comment and didn't understand why? That's your repressed pain trying to speak. When we don't acknowledge these parts of ourselves, they show up in distorted ways. They sabotage our relationships. They damage our self-worth. They keep us stuck in cycles we don't understand. But here's something no one tells you. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your teacher. It holds the exact parts of yourself that you need to reclaim to become whole. That's why Jung didn't talk about getting rid of the shadow. He talked about integrating it. So, how do you do that? How do you stop running from yourself and start turning toward the parts you've disowned? The answer lies in one of the most powerful concepts in Jungian psychology, the self. The self is your true self, not the persona, not the shadow, but the whole. It's the deepest, most complete version of who you are. It's the integration of every part you've repressed, forgotten, feared, or denied, brought together in a way that's harmonious, conscious, and free. Jung believed the entire purpose of life wasn't to chase success or avoid pain, but to become whole, to stop pretending, to stop performing, to stop believing that you need to be someone else in order to be enough. This journey toward wholeness, he called it individuation. And it's not something that just happens by accident. It's a deliberate, often painful, deeply personal journey inward. A journey that asks you to confront what you've been running from, to question everything you thought you knew about yourself. And most importantly, it requires you to take responsibility for your life. Here's the part where a lot of people get stuck: fear. Because finding yourself means shedding identities you've clung to for years. It means admitting that some of your choices weren't truly yours, that you've been living someone else's dream, that the life you've built might not reflect who you actually are, and that can feel terrifying. It's easier to stay in the mask, to keep avoiding the shadow, to follow the familiar path even if it leads nowhere. That's why most people never do this work. They stay busy, they stay distracted, they choose comfort over truth. But what they don't realize is that comfort comes at a cost paid in anxiety, in depression, in emotional numbness, in the gnawing sense that life is slipping by and they haven't even started living yet. Because when you ignore your true self long enough, the soul starts to rebel. It'll show up in symptoms: panic, burnout, disconnection. It'll scream through your body when your mind won't listen. It'll whisper through your dreams, trying to guide you back to yourself. But if you're not listening, you'll miss it. So what happens when you do start listening? What happens when you begin to integrate the persona, the shadow, and all the fragmented parts of your identity? You start to feel free, really, deeply free. You no longer feel the need to perform all the time. You stop obsessing over how you're perceived. You start making decisions based on what feels true, not what's expected. You begin to experience life in a completely different way, more grounded, more connected, more awake. And the patterns that used to trap you, you finally understand them. You can see clearly why you've repeated the same mistakes, why certain relationships felt like déjà vu, why some achievements never brought satisfaction, because all along there was a part of you buried deep that was trying to show you the way. You just weren't ready to listen. But here's something critical to understand. You can't walk this path alone, not fully, because the unconscious isn't just shaped by your personal experiences, it's shaped by something much bigger. That brings us to the next major concept in Jung's work, something that's invisible, but incredibly powerful: archetypes and the collective unconscious. These are the blueprints of your psyche, the ancient forces that influence how you think, feel, and behave, often without you even knowing it. If you want to truly discover who you are, you have to understand what's shaping you from the inside, because until you do, those invisible forces will keep running your life. And that's what we'll explore in the next part. What are archetypes? Where do they come from? And how do they quietly influence every area of your life, from your dreams and relationships to your fears and desires? We're going deeper next, and I promise this part is going to connect dots you didn't even know were related. Stick with me, you're getting closer to the truth. We've talked about the persona, the mask you wear. We've talked about the shadow, the parts you've hidden. And we've introduced the self, the complete, authentic you. But there's still something deeper, influencing your journey, something ancient, invisible, powerful. Jung called it the collective, unconscious. Now, this idea might sound abstract at first, but stay with me, because once you understand it, a lot of things in your life will start to make sense. The collective unconscious is like a deep psychic reservoir that we all share. It's not made of personal memories, it's made of archetypes, universal patterns, innate tendencies, primordial images that live within all of us, no matter where or when we were born. And these archetypes, they shape everything: your dreams, your fears, your goals, your relationships. You've seen them before, even if you didn't realize it. The hero, the wise old man, the mother, the rebel, the victim, the lover, the seeker, the shadow. They appear in fairy tales, myths, religious stories, and movies. But more importantly, they appear in you. That's right, these aren't just characters in books. They are psychic blueprints living in your unconscious, influencing how you see the world and how you see yourself. Ever feel drawn to a certain story or myth like it speaks to something deep in your soul? That's not random. That's the archetype resonating within you. But here's where it gets tricky. You don't choose which archetypes influence you. They're already there, woven into your psyche. And if you're unaware of them, they can take over your identity completely. Let's say you unconsciously identify with the hero archetype. That can be powerful. You strive, overcome, transform. But if that becomes your entire identity, you may feel pressure to always be strong, To never show weakness, to suppress your vulnerability. Or maybe you're caught in the caregiver archetype always. Helping, always putting others first. That sounds noble. Until you burn out, feel invisible, and forget how to care for yourself. The problem isn't the archetypes themselves. It's when we over-identify with one and reject the others. We become unbalanced, fragmented, stuck in roles we don't even know we're playing. Individuation, the journey of becoming whole, means recognizing which archetypes are active in your life and which ones you've exiled. It means learning from all of them without being ruled by any of them. So how do these archetypes show up? They whisper through your impulses. They repeat in your patterns. They appear in your dreams. They even show up in your fantasies and obsessions. You might not consciously understand them, but your unconscious does. And if you don't bring them into awareness, they'll keep shaping your reality from behind the scenes. That's why people feel lost, not because they're broken, not because they're lazy or flawed, but because they don't realize they're being run by invisible patterns. They don't know their hero is tired. They don't know their inner child is still wounded. They don't know the rebel in them has been silenced for too long. And most of all, they don't know who they are without those roles. But once you become aware of the archetypes, you start to take back control. You begin to alter your life, not just act in a script written by your unconscious. That's the difference between existing on autopilot and living with awareness. Now let's talk about something even more important. What happens if you ignore all of this? What happens when someone refuses the call to individuate? Jung was very clear. Avoiding the inner journey doesn't save you, it destroys you slowly. When you deny the truth of who you are, you begin to live a life of quiet desperation. On the outside, things might look fine. You're working, you're socializing, you're even achieving. But inside, you're dying. Non-individuation, never facing your unconscious, leads to suffering that has no name. A subtle depression, a chronic anxiety, a numbness that no vacation, no purchase, no external success can cure. Your psyche starts to rebel. It sends you signals: restlessness, burnout, an existential ache that no one else seems to understand. Sometimes it shows up in your body as illness. Sometimes it shows up in your relationships as conflict. Sometimes it shows up in your mind as a voice saying, "This isn't it." That's your soul calling you back. But many people ignore the call. And what happens? They fall into repetitive cycles. They date the same people, make the same mistakes, sabotage their own peace. They live but only halfway. They go through the motions. They do what's expected. But deep inside, they know they are not truly alive. And here's the worst part: they get used to it. They normalize the emptiness. They start believing this is all life has to offer. They become bitter, or numb, or quietly resentful of others, of the world, of themselves. And all of it was preventable. The cost of avoiding yourself is high, but the reward for facing yourself, it's beyond measure. So what does it really mean in practice to find yourself? It means learning to live without the mask, not recklessly, but honestly. It means reclaiming your shadow, not letting it control you, but integrating it. It means recognizing your archetypes and making space for all of them. It means showing up as you are, flawed, evolving, and whole. Most people will never do this. They'll keep chasing approval, keep numbing their discomfort, keep living lives they didn't choose. But you don't have to. If you've made it this far, something in you is already shifting. You're waking up, and that's rare. That's powerful. So let me ask you, are you ready to step out of the persona? To face your shadow? To stop living on autopilot and start creating a life that reflects your truth? Because this is where your real life begins. It won't be easy. You'll question everything. You'll feel lost at times. You might even grieve the version of yourself you're leaving behind. But on the other side is something extraordinary: freedom, authenticity. Meaning, you stop asking for permission. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop pretending. You begin living. So I'll leave you with this. What's one mask you're ready to take off? What's one truth you've been hiding from? Drop it in the comments. It doesn't matter if it's a word, a sentence, or a confession, because the moment you speak it, you begin to reclaim yourself. And if this video opens something inside you, don't stop here. The next video goes even deeper into the forces shaping your psyche. And if you're serious about this journey, you won't want to miss it. Let's keep going. Your soul is ready. If this video helped you in any way, please like, share, and subscribe. This is just one part of the journey. There's more in the next video, and it's an important step. Real change happens when you keep going, one step at a time. See you in the next one.